After what felt like the longest week break ever, JJK is back with chapter 230, and man does Gege never disappoint when he takes a week off, and that's definitely not changing in this one. Things start to get very interesting at the end of this chapter, so let's just jump right into it. The chapter starts with Mei explaining that it's Mahoraga, a trump card of the Zenin clan. Choso adds that this Shikigami could adapt to any kind of attack. Yuji asks in disbelief if it also adapted to the Unlimited Void. So here Mei and Choso are essentially recapping what happened at the end of last chapter, where Gojo finally catches Sukuna in his Unlimited Void, only for him to summon Mahoraga at that moment, and using its positive cursed energy blade, it completely destroyed Unlimited Void right there and then. And I didn't really give this too much thought before, but I guess none of the students really have seen Mahoraga yet, so he would need some explaining. So it's nice that it's getting, taken care of out of the way right at the top of the chapter. The scene switches to the battlefield, and we see Sukuna moving because Gojo's void attack was destroyed by Mahoraga. In short, someone else took the sure hit effect of Gojo's Unlimited Void. Gojo deduces that it wasn't Mahoraga that took that effect, someone else was burdened with it, and that was. And then in the next page it says that Sukuna made Megumi's soul take the burden of Unlimited Void's sure hit, instead of taking it himself. That's pretty freaking insane, and I'm also happy that they clarified this because I was a little confused as to why Sukuna was still able to summon Mahoraga even after taking the hit of Unlimited Void, because there's no way that he would have been able to even speak or think or do anything as he was getting that huge massive info dump that the sure hit of Unlimited Void provides. So this is a clever roundabout way, but a pretty devastating one, because it's not clear here how much this is actually affecting Megumi's soul, like how much it's permanently damaging it or anything. So man, Megumi's getting used and abused right now, pretty bad. Sukuna sends Mahoraga back into his shadows. Gojo sarcastically says he's happy that Sukuna is fighting so desperately. So Gojo's still continuing to be his arrogant self even though things aren't looking too good for him right now. And this is only massive fuel for the fraud Kuna people out there, because ever since last chapter there's just been endless memes of people calling Sukuna a fraud one way or another. So Gege might be aware of this and he might be fueling the flames right now, which I think is pretty funny. Sukuna wanted to get rid of Gojo's Unlimited Void. When Sukuna wasn't using domain amplification, he made Megumi adapt to Gojo's void using 10 Shadows technique, and due to that Sukuna wasn't able to use curse technique other than what was applied to the domain, which was cleave. So essentially explaining exactly how it is that he swapped his soul out for Megumi's to take on the effect of Unlimited Void and have him not be affected directly. Gojo says Megumi's soul hasn't adapted to Unlimited Void because the soul was only used in the process to adapt it, which means if Gojo uses domain expansion again, Sukuna has no choice but to summon Mahoraga, but Gojo would make sure to demolish that Shikigami in one shot for sure. So I'm not entirely sure how this is getting explained here. Maybe we'll get some clarification once we get some full translations or the full official chapter, but the point of the matter here is that if Gojo uses his domain expansion again, Sukuna won't be adapted to Unlimited Void, so he's going to have to summon Mahoraga again and pretty much repeat the process from last chapter. So right after this we get a panel of Gojo trying to open his domain expansion yet again, but this time Sukuna laughs and says that Gojo won't be able to expand his domain again, and in the next moment Gojo gets nosebleeds once again. Everyone's shocked and Yuta thinks if his bad feeling has turned out to be true, and this is referring to Yuta looking very concerned after he noticed that Gojo was having a small nosebleed a few chapters back. You could kind of assume at that moment that Gojo was starting to overexert himself with using his domain expansion a bunch of times and using reverse curse technique on his own brain a bunch of times to heal his curse technique, and it turns out to be true. Sukuna says Gojo overexerted himself when recovering his burnt curse technique with RCT, because it essentially means destroying the part of the brain where curse technique is engraved and recover it with RCT, which is a very risky thing to do. Sorcerers deduce that Gojo did the process of destroying his brain and healing it almost 5 times now, but Sukuna is okay since he did it less times than Gojo did. Sukuna asks, "You're reaching your limit, right?" So that's pretty damn unfortunate. And also I didn't know it was so severe exactly what it is that Gojo was doing by healing his own curse technique. He was literally destroying his brain and then healing it over and over again. Sukuna says that this time he will close his domain with a barrier so that Gojo can't escape. All he's gotta do is just cut Gojo and adapt to void. Gojo's nose is still bleeding and he falls to his knees when Sukuna starts to say, "See you strongest, a guy that was born when I didn't exist, an ordinary guy." Once again intentionally pissing off so many Gojo fans, I'm sure. Well, don't worry Gojo fans, because on the next page Sukuna tries to open his domain once again, but Malevolent Shrine immediately gets destroyed. Sukuna too starts to bleed, even though the time Sukuna took the unlimited void effects weren't even 10 seconds, his brain still took the damage. And then we see the Sukuna's eyes and nose start to straight up like squirt out blood. And I know this is damaging Sukuna right now, but I wonder what permanent damage this is doing to Megumi. Because essentially Megumi took on the full hit of unlimited void with his soul taking it and now his brain technically taking it. But I don't know, I guess we're gonna find that out some other time. The narrator explains that just like Gojo, Sukuna's brain was also damaged, meaning he can't expand his domain either. Gojo laughs at Sukuna, pointing at Mei's crows. Gojo says, "My students are watching me. I still gotta look cool." And then we get a shot of all the students looking all happy and giddy, whatever. And this is obviously a callback to when Sukuna fought Gojo the first time, way back in the beginning of the manga, where he pointed out that Megumi was watching, so he had to look cool a little bit, he had to show off a bit. So this is a pretty nice Gojo moment, but moving on. Gojo pulls Sukuna towards him and lands a heavy punch on his face. Narrator recalls Yorozu's line to Sukuna, "I have more to teach you about love, and ultimate strength and the solitude it brings." So yeah, Gojo straight up nailing Sukuna in the face right here. And also it's very interesting that Yorozu gets brought up at the end of this chapter, because we still have to remember that she gave Sukuna something and we don't know what that something is yet. And I am 100% certain, as I'm sure many of you are, that that's going to come into play during this battle, possibly even in the next chapter. That's why it's getting brought up here. But the editor's comment at the end of the chapter is, "Both aren't stepping back. The battle of the strongest is going to round 2. So everything we witnessed here is just round 1. So it doesn't seem like things are ending anytime soon, which I'm very happy about, of course. I don't think anybody's complaining about that. It seems like this fight's going to be taking like 10% of the total manga by the end of it, which I'm not complaining about. Well, make sure to subscribe and turn those notifications on, because I talk about leaks on this channel from JJK each and every time they drop. But yeah, love this chapter. I hope you guys loved it too. Have an absolutely wonderful night, morning, afternoon, whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next video.